thank you all so very, very much for being here this evening. It's one of the most important things that we can do is to take a step forward on the things that we consider important. With that in mind, let's just sit a moment and think how many things are there that we can personally say that we're grateful for. And in our mind, say thank you for all the wonderful things we have in our lives. Where did we leave off, David?
In our discussion
Yes.
on this very subject, that you mentioned, on this very subject of gratitude, that's the most compelling notion or most resonant notion that stayed with me the last 3 days. This idea of trying to not only be grateful, but you also encouraged me to say thank you out loud and pray out loud as much as I could, and not just do it within the ruminations of my mind. And so that's something that I've been trying to do for the last few days, and pause and take a moment to say thank you out loud. You talked about having a love of God and an appreciation, and how we can give appreciation and love for God, or the divine, or a higher power, whichever people are comfortable with, and that higher power in turn will provide that which we need, and will take away the fears that we have. You asked me at the beginning of our discussion on Monday, do I feel alone? And that question has stayed with me. And your point was that I've not been alone on this journey, and my thoughts immediately went to other human beings, and you were suggesting that nothing I've done has been alone without the help from the above. And so that too has stayed with me very powerfully for the last 3 days.
Has your life turned in any direction in the last few days?
There are moments which this person feels lighter, and when I stay in that moment and thinking about the gratitude that I have, it feels lighter. And then in honesty, and then go back to my habitual, and that feels the same as it always does.
Can you think of any reason that at those moments you feel lighter?
Nothing I can explain in words.
Then explain it without words. Or in the few words that you can come up with. Why should you feel lighter?
In those moments, my attention can be directed towards gratitude and gratefulness. It's not otherwise ruminating on some thing in life which brings me down. So my mind is otherwise occupied, and it seems like a heaviness is lifted.
What word would you use that's equal to the heaviness?
Sometimes it's a sorrow or an ache. Sometimes it does just feel like weight on this person. And I can sense it in my body, my shoulders, instead of being relaxed, almost are perpetually raised. When I'm in life and not in a moment like this, or a moment when my mind is occupied with thoughts of God or gratefulness.
Can you imagine yourself being a little child that is loved by its creator, simply adored by its creator? You've already known and continue to know what it is to be loved. Yet you discount this love, and you don't look at it, and you don't count it, as if you don't wish to accept it. You can turn it away. And when you turn it away, you notice the emptiness, the sorrow. The moments that you spend in gratitude are moments where from within you are saying to the invisible, I love you. You are saying it to the invisible, you are saying it to yourself, you are saying it to people you know, and even people you don't know. Because they are words that spring from your heart. I love you. That's how you reach for spiritual food. And it is so important that you do this as often as you can, as often as you think. Thank the invisible, thank your Creator for taking care of you, for making you, for giving you that thing called life. We studied years ago that a man cannot do anything. And we always said, but I do this, but I do this. We do things. Yes, but not alone. Not without a great power to give you life, to give you strength, to give you hope, to give you desire. You are an extension of your Creator who wishes to bring you the gifts that you wish for. And in a great part, it's already doing that. Allow it to do so with so much less effort on your part, with so much less struggle on your part. Your part should be a thing of beauty, to help the Creator give you your dream. I would like you tomorrow and in the days afterward to say thank you many, many times a day. With every breath you take, thank you for the air. Thank you for the lungs that work. Thank you for a place to live. Thank you for every gift that you have. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell the things and the people around you you love them every day, many times a day. Even Frank Sinatra sang, "Tell her you love her, tell her tonight. Tomorrow may never come." Tell them you love them, because they need to know that you love them. They need to know it as much as you need it. I wish to talk about a parallel universe. We've all been to the movies, we've seen films, and every instant is a picture that's different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, hundreds of different still pictures to make one action. All those are different universes, and they run parallel and they exist with each other. With our eyes we see them as one action. Pick up a glass of water and drink it. The camera sees it as 200 little movements. In one movement or in one universe, you're frowning. In another universe, you're smiling. These are two parallel universes happening one after another in a sequence. They are different, but they are part of the same movement. In one world, you are not saying, "I love you." You are not saying thank you. In another world, you are. In another world, you are feeling gratitude. In another world, you're not. Let these things roll one after another so quickly that they all seem that they are happening at the same time. When those stars come out and you look at them, in your world, they came out for you. In this person's world, they came out for them. But your world is no less than their world. It is only happening in different sequences. The stars came out for you this evening. Everything that exists for you. It is the way of the universe to tell you how glad it is that you live and you live here. You can do the same things you're doing now with a dance in your soul, with a happiness. When you enter your office tomorrow morning, you can walk in with happiness. Thank God you have an office to go to. A nice place, a nice city. Goodness follows you. Pick out the things that you think are wonderful. A plant is wonderful. Your friends are wonderful. Your meetings are wonderful. Your life is beautiful, almost beyond belief. Others may see it, and it's all waiting for you to see it. I give you a great question to answer. Can you begin to learn to love yourself? Because until you do, you're going through motions, but they're just motions. They may seem real, but they're not. You can love no one until you really love yourself. And when you love yourself, you will reflect from yourself the entire world. And with it, fear will go, doubt will go, rage will go, and the war will stop. Do you believe this to be so?
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me, what you said.
Well, at least you don't believe it's to be so. At least it makes sense. Important questions that you have to ask yourself. Why don't you believe it to be so? It's easy to believe it to be so, tempting to believe it to be so. There is a reason why you do not believe it to be so. And that is your question for you to carry and think about and solve it. You are a creator of other humans, and you find how completely you love them. Why should it not be that that which created you loves you as much as you love your creations? begin by saying thank you many, many times a day. Tell me about where you were, Derek.
Where we left off in our conversation.
Yes, tell us where we began, more or less.
Yesterday, at the outset of our meeting, Gil asked what I was feeling positive about in my life, and I listed several things: my family, my health, and a few other things. And generally, I came to the conclusion that I feel pretty positive in general about my life, and grateful also. And then as the meeting went along, we spoke of different things, and I believe at some point Gil was speaking about something similar to what he was just speaking about now, and the idea of God came up, and it came to my mind that one of the things, and I said this to Gil, one of the things now it comes to mind that I don't feel positive about is my disconnect from that I feel with the invisible, with the higher power, with God. And I said that this was different than I felt a couple of years ago. I felt more connected 2 years ago. That was most of the gist of it. And I basically said this was a dark part of my life that I don't feel positive.
Since we spoke, do you feel still injured by the church?
Sure, yes.
What did you think of the idea that I too feel injured by the church?
Well, can I explain a little?
Of course.
So we also spoke about I was raised Catholic, and I'd mentioned this last night, and I'd mentioned on other occasions as well, that very traditional Catholic upbringing, Catholic schools, Sunday schools, that there's, in my psyche, I do believe in this fire and brimstone hell, version of hell, and I feel angry that I have this in my head, and it's there, and it's fear, it causes a lot of fear in myself. And so Gil asks, Gil had presented that he has, to some extent, some of that as well. And to answer the question, to be honest, it makes me feel a lot better that I know someone else feels the same way I do. So I take comfort in that idea that you also have similar feelings. The feelings of I'm not alone, yeah.
Honestly, Derek, I say thank you for joining me in my position. I don't feel a drop better. I'll try to explain to people here what I'm speaking of. The day I was born, my father lost his job, which was maybe the 15th job he had lost that year. It was only March 2nd. The owner of the store felt very badly that he had to fire him on the day his son was born. He gave him either a 25-cent tip or a 50-cent tip and let him go. Wished him luck. This was in the middle of the bite of the Big Depression. I realize that these days, many parents, it costs them thousands of dollars to have a child. From the Navy, my uncle sent my mother $50 to New York Polyclinic Hospital. It cost her $50 to have me born. Two interesting features about my birth certificate. My name is not written in capitals, which is something that Sue understands fully. If we ever have an entire long evening, we'll have to send out for some hot dogs and root beer or something and discuss that having capitals in your name means that you are property of the United States government. That's why it's such a dreadful crime to shoot somebody, because you're destroying government property. The government does not get sentimental about those things. However, you can shoot me. I am not government property because my name on my birth certificate is written in small letters. To make it even dopier than usual, it says father's occupation. And following that blank it says Porto, P-O-R-T-O, Rican. That was my father's job, being a Puerto Rican. So from the moment I opened my eyes, I was a little on the grumpy side. Then as soon as I got a little bit more civilized, and I was let out on a leash at least, it was decided that I should join the Catholic Church and sort of make the family look a little decent. So I was shoved into the Catholic Church, and when I could understand what they were talking about, I was enrolled into Sunday school to be taught the great mysteries. One of the great mysteries was that if I didn't mend my ways, I was going to spend at least 10 or 15 million years frying in oil in hell. The best I could do was probably go to purgatory for a few million years, so that the people in power, the angels in power, or whoever they are is in power, could give my case a good looking over, and then I might be ready for heaven, but not before a few million years. In the meantime, I was to realize that as a Catholic, I was born with something called original sin. So whether I wanted to or not, from the moment I gave my first I was already cast as a sinner. And then, of course, I walked into a church and I saw the cross. And I said, "What's that?" They said, "That was a guy just like you who came in and gave the church a hard time." I said, "No, I'm gonna be a good boy." And I abhorred every moment of it. I did not for 1 second believe one story, one myth, one immaculate conception, nothing. But I had to go Sunday mornings to church so that the family wouldn't look bad. And I went. And I saw that not only was this a story every Sunday morning, but there was something called girls there. Now that made the story get a little bit better. But after 2 years or so, even the girls got to be rather nowhere. So I asked my mother, at what age could I quit? And she said, at 13. And at 13, I never, ever, never went back for any reason. The only time I was in a place of worship after that was to play a bar mitzvah for a wedding. So that's how I did all that. And by the time I got a little bit more serious with my thinking, by then I decided I was pretty angry at the idea that you take a 7-year-old kid from the street who knows nothing, who can barely write his own name, and you force all these stories into his head, and you make somebody who, to this day, I would say, I'm clean 94%, but they're still rattling around in there the idea that, Barreto, your name is not spelled in capitals, you've lied, you're going to hell, and we're going to pour boiling hot oil on you for 10 or 15 million years. And there's a part of me, like with him, that buys that. They got put in at the age of 7, 8, when you're soft and defenseless, and they got you for life. I think I'm going to be very angry about that forever, that I know of. I hear where you're coming from. Now, it took many years for me to consider myself an atheist, to write college papers on my atheism, my belief in Freud, one of the things that first took me to Dr. Freud. And you can work on that. Nowadays, they are no longer teaching that story. They decided that it's bad for business, and they don't tell you you're going to hell anymore. They got rid of that campaign, and that makes me even madder, because not only now they realize that they always knew it was not true, it was an advertising campaign that they finally saw wasn't working. Do you want very much not to believe it at all?
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a campaign. You're going to have to write it, think about it, make speeches on it, all to yourself. It's nobody's business for you to think about this and write about this and see that you were conned by the best government in the world. It is the richest government in the world. And they ate you for breakfast. Take what you have, the rage in you. Stay with it until you see the depth of the rage, and then turn that into love of the people, love of God, love of beauty. Learn never to say to yourself, oh, that's ugly, oh, absolutely. No. Never, never let a put down idea, if you can possibly help it, or learn how not to do it, run across your mind. Everything is beautiful. Everything is worthwhile. Everything. A voice will come up and say, hey, you're kidding, that's pretty ugly. Well, if you're going to be wrong, okay, err on the side of thinking that things are beautiful. If you make a mistake, you'll be on the good side. What do you think?
I think it's worth the effort. It's worth trying.
Because we know from art and we know from literature that nothing in this world is completely good and nothing in this world is completely bad. So the most horrible thing that you can imagine has one drop of good in it. Focus on that drop of good. Look for it. It exists. Train your eye and your ear and your mind to find it. Find that drop of beauty. Be the first kid on your block who says, hey, that's beautiful. And nobody else sees it. Because eventually they'll learn it from you. And that's how you pay back. Because the things we learn are to be paid back. We call it a life of service. But there are many, many definitions to service. Being the first kid on the block who trains other kids to see the good is also a big service. At the same time, make sure you train little Henry to see the good. Because that's the only job we have as people, in payment for what the Creator has given us, what the Creator gives us every minute. Why, it's so doable that if we want something, all we have to do is imagine it and imagine it and imagine it better and better and better. But we can't get it. It can only be given to us for having imagined something into existence. Someday you can walk by a church and realize within yourself that you saw the truth and you put the truth into life. And that is real religion. How do you feel?
I feel a lot better. I feel encouraged. I feel like it's possible to root this part out of my psyche. And yeah.
Just about everything is possible with enough desire. Enough desire so that it creates the energy to do something about it. Maybe I'm imagining a big smile on your face, David. I'm not seeing that well these days. And Mark, you said we would talk?
Say what you said again, Mark. You said.
Did you say you and I would talk this evening? Oh. Did you say you and I would talk?
I did not say that.
You did not say that. Did I tell you how delighted I am that you are here?
You did. Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure to see you.
And you. I'm grateful.
We shared a few musical intimacies. The idea of playing notes very slowly. David Liebman will come the day when he teaches me that. And so will Ted Brown. One day a very dear guy walked into the house, and as usual, the guys that I think are fantastic stand from another world, still is. He said, "Do you listen to Warren Marsh?" And I said, "Not really. I know he was with Lee Konitz and those guys, but not exceptionally." So listen to Warren Marsh. He's the most unexpected player. Yeah. And I started to, and I had to come to the opinion, this man is about the only guy that I hear play that I have no idea of what he's going to do next. It's, wow, he did that. Complete surprise at every turn. Playing all the things you are. It's a bass introduction. Red Mitchell plays the entire song, the whole tune plays. And then Warren Marsh starts playing tenor. It took me weeks to find that he was not playing an introduction or something. He was playing the tune itself. Beneath what he is playing, you can't recognize the tune. Even if you know the tune, if you've been playing the tune for 30 years, you can't recognize the tune. So, this man fascinates me. Back when I was in Hunter College, I remember there was a guy in the office doing paperwork and this and that. And he typed, I had written it in longhand, he typed it for me. His name was George Ziskant. So I'm looking through the internet and I see a picture that says, Warren Marsh entering George Ziskant's apartment. So I called George Ziskant. Hello, this is Gil. Oh, you remember me from 25 years ago? He said, yeah. So we started, oh yes, okay. He said that Warren Marsh had been a very good friend of his. He's got a lot of stuff. And I said, I want to go further along the lines of Warren Marsh. He said, well, call Fred.
Ted.
Like she said. And I do, and we start to study over Skype. So his mind is that you've got to be playing a song, established tune, the chords, and then over that you can do whatever improvising you wish, but it has to be based on a song. I try desperately to get over that. And my idea is to play a series of improvisations that no one alive will recognize as anything they've ever heard before. If they recognize it, I got to change it. And Fred and I start to talk and this and that. And then on the CD player, I play a Warren Marsh tune. And I play what I play over it. And he says, Gilly says, that sounds very, very good. But I don't have an idea what tune you play. And I said, neither do I. So he says, well, if that's what you want to do, I'm with you. Let's proceed right ahead. And the saving grace between us is that I'm only 84, but he's 85. So, and then the capper of the story is that we're close friends with Beverly Getz, who's Stan's daughter. And from out of nowhere, a few weeks ago, she said, Gil, I would like you to sit with Stan's home and just play it, mind it. Someday, I don't know when, I'll ask you for it back. And I've been doing that. And I have the strongest feeling when I play the horn that somehow Stan is there. And I've made another friend in another dimension. And since I've been doing that, my playing has altered a lot. And whereas I once felt I can't take the way I play my style any place. Nobody can understand it. Now, this is the way I play, and I want to do it more, better, cleaner, but that's the way I want to play it. And I have a very strong feeling that Stan Getz approves. And I often see around, he's there with myself and his saxophone. The other day I got up and I said, well, before I have coffee, I'll start to practice and practice. And it was about 14 or 15 hours later that I realized I've been playing again all day. And this happens fairly often, 10 hours, 12 hours, I don't know. It just, I'm doing what I love to do. And also Fred says, play notes very slowly. Bump, bump, bump. Ding.
Precisely.
You do that too. I taught her to do that. I told her, playing those slowly. I don't know why I told her that. So what's happening in your life? Tell me.
Well, my opera is going to be done in the Fringe this summer.
What?
My opera is being done in the Fringe Festival this summer. So I'm working on that. And the growth part of that for me is that I'm producing it. So it's been a challenge. There's a lot more jobs to juggle, but it's very satisfying.
Could you hire a saxophone player that nobody knows what he's playing?
Not for my opera, sorry. You have to play what I do.
I refuse to be dominated by written music. Did you know she just came back from a tour in Ecuador?
I did know that. I saw it on Facebook.
What do you think of all this crazy stuff?
All of it?
Well, just respond to as much of it as you can handle.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
You're very Buddhist about this.
What?
I know nothing. I think that the notion, I think it's all connected really, because self-love, such a tried and tired terminology in the spiritual realm. You know, we kind of hear it and everybody agrees they've got to figure it out. Nobody really gets to how that's done.
Yeah, nobody got it yet.
But I've had this conversation recently with a friend and decided to feel it out, literally, feel it out. And ironically, the number one item that goes on the list for what I think manifests self-love is gratitude. Gratitude is the key to willingness to accept that there is an energy bigger than you, however you define that, that is going, that put you here, that has bolstered your existence, and it will constantly give to you if you open up to it. I think that when we acknowledge gratitude, we give permission to kind of stop saying something is missing. When we keep saying something is missing, we're implying that something doesn't love us. And if we don't believe that, somehow deep down and inherently we never love ourselves. existential existence, you might learn to be quiet. You might learn to feel silent about your existence, but this idea of self-love will never form. The second way to put self-love in action, because I think gratitude is an action, is to weed out and root out your resentments. So, for me, I've been digging deep down to look at truly, it's in a daily way, I'm happy, everything's great. When I peel back that layer and I look at my resentments, people have annoyed me, situations annoy me. Again, I'm insisting that something is missing. So, by looking at and releasing resentments, self-love grows. Because actively seeking, going after resentments is the only way to get gravity out of your body. It's another action. Catholicism. I was raised Catholic too. I was blessed with having an Episcopalian mother, so when I'd come home and tell her about the tales of fire and brimstone, she would explain to me the symbolism of it. So I started to have a distanced way of understanding what was being said, and I loved the incense, and I found things about it that I thought were really groovy. And I took distance from the stuff that made me feel uncomfortable, because I knew somehow, I've always known, that my idea of God would never cause fear in me. What would cause fear in me would be not God. I don't know. The only way I've thrown off the last of the kind of, that's the best way to put it, superstition of Catholicism is to have totally redefined what I do believe in. Because then I can defy it. You know, I really believe hell is here on earth. If we choose to live in a negative, fear-filled, paranoid, resentful, ungrateful, something is missing way, that's hell for me, and I can go there. I've lived in it. Hell for me is a hangover. So, I don't know. Derek, I get it. I really do. I deal with it with my dad because he was so tortured by his Catholicism until chatting with Gil. So he lived with that for a long time. Anytime anything bad would happen in his life, he believed he was being punished by this God that Catholicism gave him. And anything good that happened to him, he thought he'd have to pay penance for it if it felt good. So that's like an insane seesaw to have instilled in you as a kid. But the best thing that, I don't know, he did for that was to say, I defy you. And that guy, what he said to me made me feel good. So I'm trying that on, and if it feels good, it must be good, because my God doesn't want me to suffer. And I don't know, I think there's some sort of a defiance and just a change of heart. Just saying, I'm not going to, I don't believe it. It's superstition. I'm going to walk under ladders, and black cats are going to cross my path, and I'm just going to keep on. I don't know. That's my answer. I can't chime in with the music stuff because I love hearing the Cyber Creator opera. Amazing.
I'd be interested if Paula, which I've probably asked in this room before, could speak to how her music intertwined with this work. Because I think this creativity of hers is such a great gift is a gift to all of us in the work.
Well, I can sort of amplify on one thing that Gil said tonight about when you're playing and you don't really want it to sound like anything else. And that's really, for me, the essence of original thing. When I was first working with Gil decades ago, he gave me an aim to do sitting for 15 minutes or so at the piano with no music and just let my hands wander, let my ears open, hear whatever, and not be so traditionally focused on making something that was already on the page or working on craft or skill or technique, but to just open up and let the music that was around or that other beings wanted to hear played, just to let that happen. And I did that. I still do that. I don't do it every day, but I call it give them their 15 minutes, which means let the spirits or whatever urges, ideas, just let them have free reign for a certain amount of time and go wherever they go. That's been a very formative piece of work in my life. And there's another piece of it, which is the work is based on levels. You do your own personal work. You do your work for the group, and then you do the work for the work itself on a higher level. And when I'm writing music, I try to answer those three realms, so that that very personal work I'm doing, which is very internal and listening, another world, parallel world, and then to bring that into a group setting where the group is involved, and the music is just a vehicle for people doing their personal work. And in the larger sense, then the piece of music is a way for the world to evolve. So, for instance, in this opera, it's about a woman who worked really hard to for human rights in every form. And so that's in the vibration of the piece that the intention is that people hear it will come away with a little bit more of an urge or inspiration to work in that way.
I was just thinking of the idea that, like what Gil does is he speaks. He says things that reverberate in the person forever. And all of us do that to the degree that we can. But people in general don't do that very much. Things that get said that are totally memorable. And just every action that there is work on self. And I'm the person that got to meet Paula in terms of So it required that meeting for her to then be here. And like that, you just don't know. Like when Derek came here for something else, or it was a talk, and then he reappeared after his travels. But it's this idea that active action, that action is required. It's that chemistry, that alchemy has to take place. And it does require someone making that correct sound to initiate contact. And that's everything. That's that central place of transformation. Like you see in evolution in the museum, when especially interesting is the dinosaur wing. And they'll show this little joint in the dinosaur allowed it to completely behave differently in terms of being able to eat, being able to do things, walk, and that physical manifestation is parallel to this manifestation of acting and reacting from essence. So the sound that Gil made originally is extremely significant because none of us would be here. So that evolutionary creation is the crucial piece of magic. And I think in terms of the subject of gratitude, to always realize what it is that life is like. What is life? And life is made up of very particular things without which no life would be here on Earth. And that particular sound, that vibration, is the source. So that probably we don't look at it as deeply as it really is occurring. How can we do that? I can only say this because you're all here, creating enough energy to allow thought to take place of a certain kind. Otherwise, I can't speak. I'm very aware of where anything that I know how to do comes from.
What are you thinking about tonight, Albert?
I got many ideas in my head while this meeting is going on. Most of it is about gratitude. And grateful, start with great. I don't know if fall means God. But in Hebrew, it's the same.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Great is hod, and grateful is odaya. God is great and God. And as a Jew, thank God I'm not Christian, because you all guys got some traumatic experiences. So I'm very grateful to God that I happen to be born in Israel and have Hebrew as my second language, as my first language. And Hebrew is a very teaching language. Every word is really thoughtful, and if you happen to be I happened to grow up into a religious upbringing, so I would be exposed to a lot of the language, which we don't really use on the street, but I'm very exposed to it and I kind of understand that. Gratefulness, for example, in Hebrew to say thank you, it's modeh, modeh ani. It's always, all the prayers are about that. And modeh, it's not only thank you, it's also I admit, it also means in a way that I confess.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, gratefulness, it's not something that you do. It's something that you need to be, because it's a state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, I mean, the way I feel it in a three-part. One part, if I look at my life, I'm very grateful for many things, because I get lucky. I get lucky because my family, the way I was brought up, the way I look, the way I think, the way it's easy for me to do life, you know. So it's not me, I was born like this, so I'm grateful for that. I don't take it as I'm doing it. So I can be grateful for my children laughing and all the great moments and the friends that I have and the family and the life, you know. Good life, what can you do? You know? The other part is I'm very grateful for also all the sorrow and the hard life that I had innerly. And I had some very harsh experiences as a boy, and I overcome. So I'm also grateful for all the suffering that brought me to understand that God doesn't really want me to suffer for nothing. He explains to me in a written note from other people, if I don't get it, he gives me an experience. If I don't get it, he gives me another experience. If I get it in this part and I don't get it over there, so I get a hammer on the head. But it's all from love. So also the no pain, no gain type attitude, which is the second part of my, the way I think about it. The third part is the most important for me. It's that I'm very grateful for God to making me at this life a type of person that can actually come here and do it. Because I know other people who can't. And I know other very, very close people to me, that is family for me too, that are not even in the area. They don't even know this world. They don't have access to it. So in a way, the state of being of gratefulness brings me into the state that you feel compassion to God in a way, and compassion reveals love, because we have a lot of love, we just blocked. So as I get older, this love in me, it's okay to love, you know, it's okay, it's cool, it's not that. So the fear starts to come down, it's not as a big demon anymore. And in a way it brings me to an idea that Gil and I spoke, which is a very strong idea to my opinion in general to have as an attitude, is that we are the children of God, or we are made out of God. In Hebrew it's very clear, you know. God took a part of Him and made us, whatever. It's like the same material, the fabric is the same, different designs. And in a way, you know, you exercise this idea for 10, 20 years, and in a way, it's nice. It's okay to love yourself, and to love others, and to love God, and to practice a little bit more light. just be lighter about life. And I find that when you are a little bit lighter, the story of your life and the story of your childhood become lighter. Because I am the director here, after all. My power, it's my choices. And if I remember myself, I can do. And in a way, what do? I actually feel that I have a responsibility and a mission and purpose to manifest the fabric of God into the world, because He cannot do it. He sent me here. If He could have done it, He didn't even send me here.
So you're a salesman.
I am a representative.
Ah. When you say before that we love ourselves, we love God, and maybe we love, for me it's the same thing. The same thing. If you love God, you love yourself. If you love yourself, it's because you love God. Same thing. Same material.
Yeah.
Same manufacturer.
It's confident. If I love you, let's say you meet a person, you fall in love. Think about it. When I fall in love, when I meet a girl and she's crazy about me, what do I feel? Confident. I feel great. She loves me, no matter what I do. Then it goes away. But real love doesn't go away. God is like that all the time. So if I think that we have good relationships, you feel good all the time, because He doesn't, I don't like this, what you do here.
God is a girl who doesn't leave you.
Yes, always she loves. She thinks it's like a mother,
Well, I have to go home and think about it.
A Jewish mother. My mother. Listen, my mother, if I kill 15 people in a bank, she will go to the judge. And she said, I know he killed, but he's a good boy.
He's a good
You should
boy.
let him go. She would not be harsh on me.
People, I had a wonderful time being here with you. A wonderful time.
Joe, good evening. I'd like to mention about what Pamela said in terms of
Please.
the sound that your message, your work, your voice, that became the music of the spirit. When I met with you, I never heard anyone who spoke of the deepest things in the manner that you spoke. I went home trying to memorize every single thing you said. It became a music to my soul. And I just resonated with what Pam said, that has to happen, something to occur. So it was the beginning of my transformation in life. Because I really didn't think this person's life is going to be amounts to anything. As Albert was saying, I came from different parts of the world. There's a lot of trouble and a lot of difficulties, and I saw a lot of suffering and pain in the world. And this person didn't really think I wasn't going to be anything. If I can survive, there will be a success. And this is how I always thought. And somehow the Maker sent me to there and here and go to Catholic college and learn this and that. And it's a miracle. So I am grateful. And being born is a miracle. And I was listening to Bill Moyer saying about we are a species, we are in the evolution, and we have to help everyone. That was our mission in life. And when Pam was speaking this evening, I thought about that. They came to my mind. And it's been a great, great journey. And I think about, I'm in the best of my life now.
And the only thing I don't remember is to smile and be lighthearted about it, about life. I visit the burdensome suffering part quite often. But there is a message. I'm trying to perfect it, how to smile. So, our Lord was smiling the other evening.
Beautiful for you. The things you do them very seriously, and you get them done.
It's hard to learn how to smile.
Anyone else wish to add any statements before we lock up?
I do.
Yes, please.
On the topic of gratitude specifically, I remember maybe 2 years ago, when we were meeting on Tuesday at Gianni's office, he spoke of this realization he had that he had virtually no gratitude for anything in his life, for where he lives, for what he has. And at the time, it made zero sense to me. I heard it, and I felt, well, this is what's going on with him. Well, I'm grateful for this and that, and it was just words. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel any real gratitude. And I had just had, this is now, all these amazing things happen to me. Things have gone so well in my life with a move, a recent financial thing that had happened, and virtually everything in my life had gone so amazing. I didn't think to attribute it to any kind of intelligence, anybody looking after me, anything like that. I was just awestruck, and I said, I can't believe it. Things have gone so unbelievably well. Wow. But I didn't say thanks to anybody. And so we had this discussion yesterday. It sounds like something similar to the idea of just speaking of gratitude and deciding to say thank you many times a day to something that cares for you and to mean it. And I took an aim with Mr. Gill to do this. This was yesterday. I had a dream where I was murdering somebody and robbing everything from their house. And, this is something that happens in my life when I am making an effort to thwart something or to change something. But so I started this, what I'm calling an exercise or an aim today. I thanked a thing called God for everything, for the jeans I have, for the view out my new bathroom in my new place, for jamming, for being able to sit inside my own home and basically screw around on a computer with some guy who's going to pay me. And in doing all this, it feels like the start of a new relationship, more or less. A thing that's going to require effort, work, but it feels like the beginning of a relationship. And magically, and actually feeling these moments of gratitude, or what I thought was gratitude, magically a guy who really only owed me $140 said, take $200. I said, thank you so very much, and I continued to say thank you to the universal intelligence, I'm calling it right now. So I wanted to report on that.
Bless you, Peter. Bless you.
And
Sounds like good fortune, too. Little gratitude with a little good fortune never hurts.
And in doing this exercise and saying thank you, there was virtually no time to head down some pseudo-intellectual tailspin of I hate myself, or there's this despair or that despair, or this
Forget the
emptiness.
bad stuff.
There was no time for it.
No time for bad stuff. Change the bad stuff, put a line through it, and transpose it into good stuff. All the good stuff is in the key of G.
I thought it was E flat.
Get a B and flatten it yourself. Bless you guys.
Can I say one thing? Oh, sorry.
No, after you.
Oh, I just wanted to offer something that has been helpful to me. Like probably everyone in this room, I've read many, many deep philosophical books and religious books and teachings over the centuries of this wise person and that wise person. But one of the books that had the most impact on me was The Stand by Stephen King, because it's about most of the population getting wiped out by a super virus, and then the only people left, they're all scattered across the earth, and so they, kind of set out like looking for, are there any other survivors? And eventually they meet up, and it turns out that basically it's called The Stand because it ends up to be a stand of good versus evil. Because at this point, everything has basically come down to that. So either people are dreaming about the wise old woman in the rocking chair on the porch who's the good person, or they're dreaming about the guy who's walking in cowboy boots across the desert. And these images of this come back to me because I feel that even though I associate myself with, the old lady on the rocking chair, and most of the people that I know associate themselves on more of the good side, but I think there's also a lot of the other type of person who have aligned themselves with this other side, which is sort of against what we're all talking about. And this has, of course, happened since time immemorial. And I was very fortunate to not grow up being fastened to any religion whatsoever. And so I was free in my life to pick and choose the parts of different religions that appealed to me that I thought were useful. That was something I'm very grateful for that. And in so doing, eventually I realized that all of these teachings of religions are very beautiful. I think the teachings of Christ are incredibly, incredibly powerful and beautiful, and they were so powerful that they had to be controlled almost immediately by other people who realized the power of these teachings and wanted to have that power for themselves. And so many of these, that's why I think Catholicism and Christianity and probably the teachings of many religions are very convoluted and confusing and paradoxical and opposing within themselves, because at the same time as there were people who were aligned with these godlike forces who wanted to present the teachings to help others, there were also people who realized the power that these teachings had and wished to control others by harnessing that power. So when I started personally to realize that so many of these images were created by people who wanted to just control other people, and that they weren't actually part of the good stuff. They were part of the controlling people who wanted to take the power away. That helped me a lot to see that there were many things that were attached, that had attached themselves, like little, carnivorous plants or something, to the good parts of these teachings. And when I realized that those were things that really weren't the teachings, it was very easy to discard those things, like the fire and brimstone and all this. And then also realizing that so much of it is symbolic, as Maurice Nicole wrote about in the Mark, that the symbolism is really never discussed from what I've seen in traditional religious teachings of Christianity. And he points out a lot of the hidden messages that are in the teachings of Christ and in the books of the Bible. So it's like, even though people were trying to control what was disseminated about this topic and these teachings, they could only control really the surface of it, because the teachings are so deep. And various people tonight have used the words rooted, weeding out, and things like this. And of course this relates to the tremendous power and profundity of the teachings. And so I wish everyone well on their separate journeys of weeding out things.
Do you want a donation? I gave at the office.
I would
Thank you,
actually like to
thank
take a picture of everyone. I'm getting the feeling I should take a picture tonight. Is it okay?
Yes,
Take a
yes,
picture.
sure.
I'd
Who needs to
like to
sign?
say
What?
Take another
and then I
picture.
want a picture. Because actually, I don't know so that's a big deal. So many things I could talk about, but one of the things that is coming to me very deeply actually when Sue was talking. Are these two images that came to mind of two kinds of wells. One, gratitude, like a spring that is just bubbling up. Because one of the things when I was sitting here when we started, I just kept thinking of more things to be grateful to. And there was this every moment with that and that person and this, and it just kept bubbling up, and it was a really wonderful experience. But I also thought about the opposite of that there's this well that you can go into of negativity, which just gets deeper and deeper and harder to get out of. And now I'm speaking of it, it could actually be the same thing. You could probably go from one to another. But these two forces that we have to reconcile. But that idea of this bottomless energy that is in both of them, and why wouldn't we want to choose the one that's so enriching? And then one other thought on music. The first words Mr. Gill said to me tonight were, it was all like a piece of jazz in a sense. It was crazy, unexpected, everything seemed to go. You said to me, I think you said to me, I'm not even certain, I just have to go from my own imagination of it, but I thought you said, I'm in this body now and I might be in another in a few minutes. The whole meeting felt a bit like that to me, like we were traversing through different planes of existence, and the idea that all of this is God and kept coming to me, and the gratefulness of hearing everyone speak, and feeling just so incredibly grateful and lucky.
Bless you, Mark. Bless you.
It was right.
We thought for a while that by seeing the way we change personalities, seeing the way others change personalities, we were getting a very deep insight. It was a good insight. Now as we see universes change between ourselves and others, it goes a lot deeper.
You know, on Tuesday we had a very interesting meeting with the 3 June. And Peter and Derek and I were talking about, okay, let's say I want to be grateful. I think it's wonderful. Everything was said in this room is wonderful. I want to be grateful. I want to do everything that was said here. And then I go, and life takes me from here. It spins me. And once a week I'm like, I got a meeting with Gil, I gotta be grateful, you know? So in life, how do you do it? You know, you don't
That's
have
not
it.
being really grateful.
Exactly, but I'm talking reality, how life takes us, and we forget because we're busy and this and that and drama, and we don't have the ability to remember. So what do? And
Put
in
on
a
a
way,
grateful button.
exactly. So in a way, we have to say, okay, the situation is the situation, the terror of the situation, And from now on, I want to become a warrior. A warrior. He was talking about worrying, we talked about all other things. And in a way, we are going to start fighting everything that stops us from being grateful.
That's a good one.
And to start, Neville Goddard, we went there in the meeting and we said, let's imagine ourselves grateful. If I would be a grateful guy, what would I do? What would I do in the morning? I wake up in the morning, what do I do? Coffee? No. I said, thank you that I woke up, you know? So
And smile.
Yes. The smile will come automatically. If I smile like this, it's not going to happen.
No.
Smile is something that comes from inside.
It's got to be real.
Yes, it comes from up. So we said that according to Neville Goddard, we have to imagine ourselves whatever we want to be, and what would we do, and feel as if we already are. And it was a great meeting. And I'm grateful for this meeting. Thank you.
I love you.
Picture.
Picture. Where should
Picture,
we?
take a picture.
We need better light. Can we gather over here where the light's better?
Around the AC over there?
How about in the next part of the loft?
Okay.
In the middle part.
With the tie or without the tie?
With the ties, of course. Come on, it makes you guys look better.